Coral reefs of the world are at the brink of collapse, primarily because of climate change, elevated temperature and mass bleaching events. However, here in the Gulf of Aqaba and the northern Red Sea, we find that corals are relatively resilient to thermal stress and are doing pretty well. In fact, they are even improving with elevated temperature.
Today we are focusing on the mesophotic or deep reefs because they make about 2/3 of the reef in the northern Red Sea. And these deep reefs can be a refuge for shallow corals because if the seawater temperature is warming a lot, then the larvae of shallow corals can establish down at the mesophotic depths. But the reef have been poorly investigated so far because a submarine called the ROV is needed to work in the deep. And today we have the chance to spend four days with the ROV to investigate the biodiversity of the reefs and to take some coral samples to assess their physiology regarding thermal resistance to an increase in temperature.
And we managed to collect all coral samples that were requested by the different scientists. We didn't know before which and how many coral species we will really find during the ROV dives. We also discovered some coral species that have so far only been seen in shallow waters, but never that deep. We had to be very careful to not harm the coral fragments when we collected them with the ROV arm from the seafloor. And since these corals live in the deep, under low light conditions, we had to protect them from the sunlight once we brought them back on the ship. All coral samples are now in the lab for different experiments, and everyone is very excited about the first results that will come out from this mission. Finally, the plan will be to come back in 10 years to look if these mesophotic reefs will have experienced any changes in biodiversity over time.
And we call to secure these reefs as a coral reef refuge from climate change by removing local stresses such as pollution, herbicides, pesticides, light pollution and plastics from these reefs. It can be done by regional collaboration and intensive research on these reefs to better understand their resilience and secure them as such for future generations.